So in this video, I'm going to try and step you through these R instructions that I've linked to on the lecture notes page, and they're also in the lab. And the first thing these R instructions do is to say open RStudio. So hopefully you've downloaded both R and RStudio. Those are two separate things. So I'm just going to start it opening my RStudio. And you can also set it up so that whenever you click on an R file, it goes into RStudio instead of R. So let me know if you have any questions on that. But RStudio just has a little bit more of kind of a menu interface than just base R, just the plain version of R. And so down here is what's called the console, and that's where you can enter in a lot of commands. You can also put what's called a script file, and so that's what I gave you on the homework. It's just basically a text file where you can have some R commands. That's a nice place to kind of keep a history of your R commands, and then you could save those and you can rerun them later. So I would definitely do something like that for your projects down the road. And then actually the hardest thing about R is getting the data into R. So I've tried to make that easy the first couple of times. One thing you can do is the scrolls data set. You'll find it in a couple different places. One place you'll find it is on the textbook webpage or here. And you'll notice that I can right click on that link and I can copy the link address. Or if I open up the data set and I go here to get that address, I can just copy that to my clipboard. And so I'm just trying to get that URL. Because one thing you can do in RStudio is you can go to import dataset and go to from text with readr, and then just paste that URL here. Now I like to use tab delimited files. R doesn't always like that. So I need to come down here where it says delimiter comma and change that to tab. And R will still complain, but then it should let you come to the upper right corner here and press update and then see that the data set is being loaded incorrectly. So we're seeing our two different columns for this particular data set. So now that that preview looks good, I'm going to go ahead and import that data set. And so notice it down here in the console, it gives you a copy of the commands that you used. So this is very similar to the commands that I was giving you. So another thing that you could have done from the lecture notes instructions here is just copy and paste this command here. Notice I'm not copying the caret because that's what's appearing in the R console window. So I'm just going to highlight everything else and copy that. And that would be another way that I could paste it in. And notice however you're getting it in, you're going to name this data file something. So here I've named it scroll data. The original one was called squirrels. And you need to know the name of that data file because R needs to know the name of that data file. So if I want to refer to things, I refer to it by the data file name. So one of the first things I ask you to do once you get the data in is just to preview it to make sure that it's running okay, that I got loaded incorrectly. So head is a really nice way to just see the first few rows. And you can even control how many rows it shows you if you want to see a few more. You could also do, I think it's bottom or tail to see the end of the distribution. Let's try tail instead, the end of the data file. Right. So you're just making sure that everything got loaded incorrectly. You can also do view with a capital V, and that's actually the main rule in R is it's very, very picky. R is very picky about punctuation and about capitalization. But that opens up, again, let you see the whole data file, but this isn't a spreadsheet. You can't manipulate this in any way. It's even really hard to kind of get data back out of R. So I'm just doing this to look at the data. So that's the previewing of the data. And then I need to use the name of the data set to be able to do functions on. So I'm going to copy this, and then I'll show you a couple different things. So what the width command is doing here is it's saying that's the name of the data file. With that data file, I want to run this thing called summary, which is going to just format my output for me. And then AOV stands for analysis of variance. And so it's expecting a quantitative variable here, length. And again, I had to use the capital L because that's what I had in my data file. And then it uses this tilde to kind of specify the model. So this is like Y and then X. And X has to be a categorical variable. And so R is going to recognize this as categorical, and it should be happy with all that. So when I press enter, it's going to give me my traditional ANOVA table like we're used to seeing. The other way that you could do this, if you didn't want to use the with command, is you would have to, again, tell R the name of the data file that has your data. And with the RStudio, you get these autocorrect, which can be very helpful to make sure you're spelling things correctly and getting in the right name. So that should give me the same output, but I introduced an error here So I could show you that comma needs to actually be that tilde. So I've specified that in all the correct. So back to the instructions. So that's the ANOVA table. And now I want to produce our simultaneous confidence intervals. Unfortunately, there's not a command already in R that'll do that for me. But R, the best part of R is you can search and somebody's written a function somewhere that'll do it for you. So I just need to load in this package and then I can use it. And there's a couple ways you could do this. Again, RStudio makes it really nice that you can go to packages and you can say you want to install a package. And all you need is the name of the package. And so this one is going to be DSC tools. Again, remember, you've got to match that capitalization and it should give you that autocorrect. And install dependencies because sometimes packages rely on other packages. So then I'm just going to press install and it might take a couple minutes. Notice I could have also just typed it in. When you're doing install.packages, you do need the quotation marks around the name. And so this is just getting that package into R. So then I can use that package, kind of like putting in a light bulb into my lamp. And this one actually does take a couple minutes and there's a lot of things to download. And so if you have trouble with this, just let me know. R often gives you kind of warnings and other things in red, which makes it seem like it's a big error. But sometimes warnings are just warnings. And especially when you're installing packages, it'll often tell you about, what version of R it was built under and if it thinks it's going to have any problems. So you might be okay, right? So now I have my caret back. So I know good to know. My lamp has been loaded. Now I need to actually turn it on. And so what we mean by turning it on is you're going to do this library. And then I'm giving it the same exact name, but I don't have the quotation marks around it. Or I've got this list of packages over here. I can scroll down and I can just put a check mark and say, okay, now I want you to actually use that package. So you have to use that two-step process. So here's one of those warning messages, but again, it's just a warning. It should work fine. Of course, I don't really know until I try and use it. And so now I'm going to do this thing called post hoc test. And I'm copying that, right? I'm just giving it that same ANOVA command that we gave it before, just in this post hoc test. And here's where I'm using that format of scroll data $, right? And then method equals LSD is the one that should match the output that we were looking at in the app. And so hopefully that all runs. And again, it's giving you lower confidence interval limits and upper confidence interval limits, but we haven't sorted that in any way. So you're going to have to go through and look which one of these are significant. These p-values here might give you a bit of a hint as well. And that is that.